Welcome back, everyone. The Middle East has once again become the focal point of global anxiety as tensions between the United States and Iran escalate to one of their most dangerous levels in years. What began as diplomatic pressure and military signaling has now evolved into a rapidly unfolding crisis involving aircraft carriers, fighter jets, regional allies, and explicit warnings of retaliation as U.S. forces move closer to Iranian territory and Israel signals readiness for a potential major action. Tehran has responded with defiance, promising that any attack will be met with overwhelming force. The situation is fluid, unpredictable, and increasingly volatile, raising fears that a single miscalculation could ignite a regional war with global consequences. In recent days, the United States has dramatically increased its military presence near Iran, deploying a powerful aircraft carrier strike group into strategic waters of the Middle East. This move, described by American officials as a defensive and deterrent measure, has been interpreted by Tehran as a direct threat. Aircraft carriers are not merely symbols of power. They are floating airbases capable of launching sustained combat operations. Their presence near Iranian waters sends an unmistakable message that Washington is prepared for rapid escalation if necessary. Alongside the carrier, guided missile destroyers and cruisers have taken position, equipped with advanced radar systems and long-range strike capabilities designed to counter both aerial and missile threats. At the same time, U.S. fighter jets and surveillance aircraft have been repositioned across multiple regional bases. Advanced stealth fighters, refueling tankers, and intelligence platforms are now operating closer to Iranian airspace, increasing the speed at which any potential strike could be executed. From Washington's perspective, these deployments are meant to deter Iranian aggression, protect American personnel and allies, and maintain freedom of navigation in critical waterways. From Iran's viewpoint, however, they represent preparation for war. Israel has also entered the spotlight, adding another layer of complexity to the crisis. Israeli leaders have long viewed Iran as their most serious strategic threat, particularly due to Tehran's missile capabilities and nuclear ambitions. In recent statements and military movements, Israel has hinted at the possibility of a significant action, though without revealing specifics. Israeli air defense systems have been placed on heightened alert. Joint exercises with allies have intensified, and political leaders have spoken in unusually stark language about readiness and resolve. These signals have fueled speculation that Israel may be preparing for a preemptive or coordinated strike should tensions cross a critical threshold. Iran's response has been swift and uncompromising. Senior officials have declared that any military attack on Iranian soil or assets would be considered an act of full-scale war. Statements from Tehran emphasize that retaliation would not be limited or symbolic, but comprehensive and severe. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a powerful military and political force within Iran, has issued warnings that its units are on maximum alert and fully prepared to respond. Iranian commanders have stressed that their missile forces, naval units, and regional allies are ready to act at a moment's notice. Beyond rhetoric, Iran has demonstrated its capacity for retaliation in past confrontations, using ballistic missiles, drones, and proxy forces across the region. The country's military doctrine emphasizes asymmetric warfare, meaning that any conflict would likely extend beyond direct battlefield engagements. Attacks could target U.S. bases, naval assets, or allied infrastructure across the Middle East. Maritime choke points, particularly vital shipping lanes, could also become arenas of confrontation, threatening global energy supplies and economic stability. The current escalation cannot be understood without acknowledging the deeper roots of hostility between Washington and Tehran. Decades of mistrust, sanctions, proxy conflicts, and failed diplomatic initiatives have hardened attitudes on both sides. Iran views U.S. military presence in the region as encirclement and interference, while the United States sees Iran's regional influence and weapons programs as destabilizing and dangerous. Each side believes it is acting defensively, yet each move is interpreted by the other as aggressive. Economic pressure has played a central role in this standoff. The United States has continued to tighten sanctions on Iranian oil exports, shipping networks, and financial institutions. These measures are intended to limit Iran's ability to fund military programs and exert regional influence. For Iran, however, sanctions are viewed as economic warfare, contributing to inflation, currency collapse, and widespread hardship among ordinary citizens. This internal pressure has fueled protests and unrest, which the Iranian government claims are being exploited or encouraged by foreign powers. Domestic instability within Iran has added urgency to the situation. Large-scale demonstrations, driven by economic frustration and political grievances, have challenged the government's authority. The leadership in Tehran has responded with force, framing the unrest as part of a broader campaign to weaken the state. In this context, external threats are often used to rally national unity and justify hardline policies. The perception of imminent military danger reinforces the narrative that Iran is under siege and must stand firm. Meanwhile, global reactions reflect deep concern. Allies of the United States have expressed support for deterrence, but have also urged restraint. European leaders, wary of another major conflict in the Middle East, have called for de-escalation and renewed diplomatic engagement. Countries dependent on Middle Eastern energy supplies are closely monitoring developments, aware that any disruption could send shockwaves through global markets. Airlines have adjusted routes, insurers have raised premiums, and investors have reacted nervously to every new headline. The possibility of miscalculation looms large. With so many forces operating in close proximity, the risk of accidental encounters is significant. A drone shot down, a missile test misinterpreted, or a naval incident could rapidly spiral into open conflict. History offers numerous examples of crises that escalated not by deliberate choice, but by misunderstanding and fear. In the current environment, where trust is minimal and rhetoric is maximal, the margin for error is dangerously thin. If conflict were to break out, its scope would likely extend far beyond a single battlefield. Iran's network of allied groups across the region could become active, targeting U.S. or Israeli interests. Israel, facing potential attacks from multiple fronts, would respond with overwhelming force. Gulf states hosting U.S. bases could be drawn in willingly or unwillingly. Cyber warfare, already a feature of modern conflict, would almost certainly play a role, targeting infrastructure, communications, and financial systems. Despite the ominous signals, diplomacy has not completely vanished. Behind the scenes, channels of communication remain open, often through intermediaries. Messages are passed, warnings are conveyed, and red lines are clarified. Even at moments of extreme tension, both sides understand the catastrophic cost of full-scale war. The challenge lies in balancing deterrence with dialogue, strength with restraint. For ordinary people across the region, the stakes could not be higher. War would bring not only military casualties, but humanitarian crises, displacement, and long-term instability. Memories of past conflicts in the Middle East serve as stark reminders of how quickly lives can be upended. Beyond the region, the global economy would feel the impact through energy prices, trade disruptions, and market volatility. As events continue to unfold, the world watches closely, aware that decisions made in the coming days could shape the future of the Middle East for years to come. Whether this crisis ends in confrontation or compromise remains uncertain. What is clear is that the current moment represents one of the most dangerous chapters in U.S.-Iran relations, with Israel positioned as both stakeholder and potential catalyst. In this tense atmosphere, every statement, movement, and signal carries weight. Aircraft carriers do not sail without purpose, warnings are not issued lightly, and alliances are not tested without consequence. The path forward will depend on whether leaders choose escalation or restraint, confrontation or negotiation. For now, the situation remains on a knife's edge, with the possibility of war looming large, and the hope of peace resting on fragile diplomatic efforts. The coming hours and days will reveal whether this crisis becomes another chapter of brinkmanship or the beginning of a far more devastating conflict. Until then, the world remains on alert, watching as history unfolds in real time.